I can try to explain exactly what words to use to create the absolute perfect webinar presentation. But I'm not going to. What I am going to do is share some tips you should probably follow and even what to do about your own presentation skills to create a better webinar presentation. So let's start. Tip 1. Start with your audience. Your presentation starts with your audience. Think about it. If your audience is Gen Z, nobody's going to care about your presentation about floppy disks. Remember those? But if you're discussing a step-by-step process on how to start a small business, you can be guaranteed to pique Gen Z's interest. So start with your target audience. And make sure that your target audience is a manageable group of people that share the same interest and demographic. A 29-year-old woman living in London working a high-paying job as a software developer has different interests than a 44-year-old man working as a lawyer in Austin, Texas. Tip 2. Your audience decides your subject. After you've decided who your target audience for this webinar is going to be, you can start thinking about your subject. And it's probably going to be much easier to figure out a subject that fits your target audience because it will be something they are interested in. Ask yourself the question, why would my audience watch this webinar? Whether it is to learn something about your product, find out how to use it, see what's new, or figure out if they would buy it or they can use it. Tip 3. Don't fluff up. When you've decided on a subject, you can start putting together your presentation. A webinar is long-form content, but that doesn't mean your webinar has to be an hour long just for the sake of being long. If your presentation is 15 minutes, your webinar shouldn't be more than half an hour long, counting 5 minutes for your intro and about 10 minutes for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Most people don't care about what you ate last night. They probably couldn't care less about the car you drive or even what your favorite color is. They are here to learn about your product, your service, or your brand. What I am getting at is that you shouldn't fluff up your presentation just to make it longer. Short but sweet is a great way to host your presentation and your webinar. Tip 4. Storytelling is key. Storytelling is key. Now, does this sound contradicting to the previous tip? Yes, it does, but it isn't. Storytelling brings your presentation to life. A great storyteller can make a presentation feel like a movie script instead of just a boring presentation. Now, may I remind you, do not fluff up your presentation, but do bring humor, personal experiences that are relevant to your story or your subject, and make your presentation interactive by including the audience. Let's have a talk about humor. Can I make a joke during a webinar? Of course I can. We're not boring, but we are professional. I can make a joke about my colleagues' bad script writing skills, but I cannot make a joke about my audience that is disrespectful. Keep it light, funny, and respectful. Humor and enthusiasm is contagious. Personal experience is something that has happened to you that can add more weight to your presentation. If you ever read the book Atomic Habits, you know that the very first chapter of the book is about the author's life story. Why is this interesting? Because it tells us exactly why he started creating Atomic Habits in the first place. It shows us his thought process. Again, if your webinar is about how to start a small business, tell people how you came up with your business idea and what your struggles were. This is interesting to listen to and it teaches people your thought process. A webinar isn't a typical presentation. A webinar can be very interactive, so use it to your advantage. Include your audience in your presentation by asking them to share their experiences, let them give you direct feedback, or ask them if they have any questions about your product or service. Tip 5. Presentation skills can be learned. Some people are born with good presentation skills. Others are not so lucky and have to learn it the hard way. Take yours truly, for example, because I used to be terrified of presenting. My first presentation was in elementary school and it was about dolphins, and I was scared shitless. To be honest, can't remember much about it because I blocked the whole experience, but I never ever presented voluntarily after that. However, I did face my fears. I kept presenting when I finally had the guts to present, and now I'm sitting in front of a camera, recording videos, hosting webinars, like it's second nature. What I'm trying to say is that you can teach yourself presentation skills. Everyone can. Some things to keep in mind about presenting is to stop with the s, the us and the as. If you can't remember what you're trying to say, just be quiet. Silence can be very powerful and give some parts of your presentation more emphasis. If you want something to land, for example, just stop talking after the fact and give your audience a moment to process what you're saying. It also gives you a moment to catch your breath. Presenting is just as much about what you're saying as it is about what you aren't saying. In other words, body language. Your body language can make or break your presentation. For example, don't cross your arms because it makes you look closed off. Don't make extreme movements with your hands because it can be distracting. Look straight into the camera lens because it looks like you're looking at the audience. However, do not constantly stare directly in the camera lens because that's just plain creepy. You're allowed to look at your script, look at your co-presenter, or even look down just for a moment. But also think about the camera placement. The camera below eye level pointing upwards can be, apart from very unflattering, hello double chin, very authoritative. On the other hand, the camera high above eye level, pointing downwards, can make you look very small and isn't gonna make you look like an expert. Use all these tips to create an epic webinar presentation, but don't forget to enjoy it. Hosting a webinar is a lot of fun, and the more you enjoy it, the more your viewers will enjoy it. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about webinars, how to host them, what gear to use, and what it is like to work at a tech startup, please subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click like on this video and hit that notification bell and let us know. Have you hosted a presentation before? Thank you so much for watching and we'll see you on the next one. Tell people how you came up with your business idea and what your struggles were, like people playing Mario Kart in the office right now.